Okay, so hi, I'm Jeff Leisawitz here for Brown Paper Tickets. I'm also the author of Not Effing Around, the no bullshit guide to getting your creative dreams off the ground. As you know, I love talking to creative guys like Nick, my man.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
All right. Nick's a musician, solo artist in a band, doing yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm all those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
I didn't mean to shake my. Was I shaking my head? Yes, that's true.
We can start that again.
I don't care. No, let's roll with it.
Okay.
Take wonder.
Okay, let's roll with it. Okay, so tell me, what do you do as a musician, as a songwriter? What's your thing?
Well, I fill my time when I'm lucky. I get to play in front of people. The rest of my time is basically spent trying to get better at that, and that involves a lot of time spent writing and doing a lot of self-reflection and trying to capture the things that I'm feeling in a compelling way, and also just to make music that I find interesting enough to hold my attention through repeated performances. That might sound kind of vulgar, but I really like it when songs can keep surprising you the more you do them.
Awesome. That's cool. So it sounds like you're really concerned with getting better at what you do.
I think that is the key always. And it's not necessarily better in any specific measurable sense. It's more that the more that I keep doing this, the things that I want to achieve, the things that I want to create become that much more refined and that much more sophisticated, I think, in a way. And so it's getting to the point where you can fully realize that which you dream up. That's what I would say is getting better. It's not like, well, man, I played that C chord really well today. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, where can I take this creatively? I have this idea. I have this thing that I can't get out of my head. What is that pointing to? What's the fullest realization of that idea?
That's awesome, man. That's cool. So how do you do that? Like, what steps do you take, or do you have a method for doing that?
I have no idea how it's done, honestly. I think every time it's different. Every process is different. Every song is different. Every section of every song is different. Sometimes things just kind of fall from the heavens through your brain and land in your lap, and you're like, well, that's done. All I did was sit here, and that's done. Other times it's very much, you're punching the clock. You're going to work every day. You're doing the work that feels like is going nowhere, but it's always, you're always chipping away at that rock and making it something cooler.
Yeah, nice. So what do you love about this? What do you love about songwriting and performing?
That's a tough one to answer. I feel like there's so much. I think I love being, I mean, it's across the board. I kind of love every part of it except sitting in traffic. So I think the actual creative process, the distilling a very intense emotion or feeling or sense or perspective of the world into something that is tangible and you can kind of hang your hat on, is something that I really enjoy when it's done. It's not always fun to achieve, but when it's done, it's pretty awesome. And I think then being able to present that in the way you'd like to present that, and then being able to play it live in front of an audience of people who are there to have that shared experience. They want to feel what it is that you're trying to express. It's an immense privilege. It really is. It really is. I love all of that. And then I love the simple act of getting to meet people who have connected with the work that one has done. what's better than that?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So at this point, you've been at this for a while. About how long?
That's a great question. Probably 11 or 12 years. I think probably since I started writing songs really seriously. Yeah, I don't know. That makes it sound like forever, but I mean, I guess it has been forever.
Okay, so do you feel like you have had successes in your music career? So
Yeah, I do.
And in what ways?
I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, they've been relatively small successes, but they've been incredibly important to me. This kind of goes back to what I've already said, like feeling that connection when you're owning a song in a room and you feel the room kind of lean forward into it. Like you as a performer, you have that sense. You know when it's connecting. Those are the successes that I really get off on. Commercial success, business successes are great and they're fantastic, but that's not why I'm here. Like that's not what gets me up every day. There are artists that I think that's the case for, and that's great. Go nuts. But I think that's not my main interest. And so my successes are going to be much more, in my mind, measured by the connection that I'm able to forge with an audience and the connection that I'm able to forge with the musicians that I get to play with. Because I happen to play, especially now, with musicians that I respect the hell out of. And to see them get excited about playing the music that I've brought to the table is a huge, huge honor.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool to get some awesome players behind you. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no small thing.
Okay, so what have you learned from your successes?
What have I learned from my successes? I have learned that a lot of the things that one thinks are going to be, oh God, I don't know how to say this. I think there's it's very easy to look at music these days in its very polished, finished form, which is how it's generally released, and think, wow, someone just woke up someday and that's what they had. And sometimes ideas do come that way, but for the most part, I think really good ideas are developed out of things that seem like they're just going to be absolute crap at first, and that there is a long process of refining and polishing and condensing and expanding on some ideas and getting rid of a bunch of others, and that what we end up hearing as the finished product is something that's much more, there's been a lot of elbow grease put into that, and so I think that's helped my appreciation with music that I don't necessarily like per se, but the longer I've been doing this and the more appreciation I have for that process, I can start to find those little nuggets within other people's work much more easily. Than I'm like, wow, okay, I understand what you're doing there and how hard that is.
Yeah. Okay, so you've had successes with your music and your career. What about failures? Have you had failures, and what have you learned from that?
No, I don't think I've failed ever. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, of course I've had failures. What have I learned from that? That it doesn't matter. I I think if it mattered, none of us would be doing this, because, you know, in a sense, playing music is basically trying to get a bunch of people into a room to watch you potentially mess up. And we've all messed up a lot to become musicians. Some would say that is the first mistake, is becoming a musician. So I think it doesn't matter. And it's very liberating when you get to that point where you're like, you know, okay, that wasn't the right chord there, but instead it was something new that I certainly didn't expect. So what? Here we go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, obviously you want to do it the best you can, but if you let that stuff get in the way, then you lose the vitality, you lose the spark, you lose the energy of whatever that moment is. And so getting out of your own way and being okay with it, well, that went sideways, but the rest of it was cool, you know. It's easy, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone else. Like, I feel like I can get in my head and be like, well, that was a cool show, but man, that one moment in that song, I you know, and sometimes I make the mistake of saying that to people, and they're like, oh no, I thought that was really cool. Like, that was just a new window in. That wasn't, something else happened, and just surrender to it.
Yeah, that's very.
If you want, or don't, then drive yourself nuts.
I've done both.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, cool. So, how do you choose what goals to set in your career, and how do you get to them?
That's something I don't think I have a good answer for. I think I'm still learning, very much in the learning stages of doing that. You know, for a long time, my goals were very much what is immediately in front of me. Wow, okay, we don't have very many gigs 2 months from now. There's a lot of open space on this calendar. We need to fill that up. And so it was just always that kind of constant attention to plugging the holes of the sinking ship. And that's fine, but no one was actually driving the ship. Like, it was floating, but it wasn't going anywhere. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to hoist a sail at the same time. So I don't have a good answer there.
Okay.
I will say that I think in a roundabout way, that's kind of been beneficial, because I know a lot of artists that are very good at that long-term plan, and then they get that long-term plan happening, and I don't feel like they quite have the substance to back it up. And I think, though I haven't achieved very much commercially, I think I'm ready now. I think I have more in my pocket.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you ever visualize where you want to go with your career? You ever meditate on it, sort of write down a vision board, or, you know, any of those kinds of things?
You know, I haven't found it to be particularly helpful, because my focus is usually more on the creative side. And so if I spend my time focusing on what the things that I would like to achieve, that's great. But if I actually focus on what I want to create, like what is a song trying to say? What do I want an album to feel like? How do I want that to come across? That's something much more tangible that I'm much more capable of addressing and actually working on. I look at that as my role. I think that's what I'm good at. Beyond that, it doesn't really do much for me, in all honesty. Because I want to get have the work. I want to have the work ready.
So
That's my own perspective.
yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
You're right for you. I mean, is it working?
Sometimes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know what's down the road.
Nobody does.
No one does. There might not even be a road. It might have eroded.
So, as you look down the road or down your path,
Oh, there's a path. The road's gone, but there's a path.
there's a little path.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So you got your path out there, and as we know, any musician, writer, photographer, actor, whatever, this is a hard. It's a hard career. It's hard to do this stuff.
Sure.
What is it that keeps you going instead of just sort of getting a regular gig?
Doing something else?
Yeah.
I think the challenge of it, the challenge and the reward of it, I think I'm someone who really likes to connect with my work. And I've noticed that I don't work all that well if I'm not emotionally invested in it. And I think I have a pretty low tolerance for BS, and I'm a terrible employee because of it. So this just makes sense for me, and it's never in my mind, like looking back as far as I can remember, like this has always made sense for me in the way that I function and look at the world. This has just been, it seemed obvious.
Ever since you were a little kid?
Ever since I was a little kid. Yep. I thought, I can jump through hoops, I can do this thing, but really, I have this weird tenacity with things that I'm fascinated by where I won't stop. I'll forget to eat all day if I'm working on something that I enjoy. And why not do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or do a job you don't like and eat as much as you want. Probably would have been smarter, actually, now that I mention it. Oh well.
That's funny. Okay, so tell me about your comfort zone. Do you stay, in terms of your career in songwriting and performance, do you tend to stay in your comfort zone? Do you tend to move out of that? Is that conscious? What's that all about for you?
Good question. Well, I think there's different levels of that. I think when you're performing it, I think you are, if you're doing it right, you're riding a knife edge. Like you really are, you're in a comfort zone because after you've done it for a while, it's a comfortable element, and that's not weird anymore. But for that to be an interesting experience for everyone involved, like you need to really be pushing the edge of what you think you might be able to pull off on a whim. And I think I love seeing that and I love doing that. And sometimes it maybe goes a little sideways on you, and other times you'll surprise yourself. So, yeah, I guess in terms of writing, so far I feel like I've stayed within a comfort zone, I think. And I think that maybe people might be a little surprised, my work might be a little surprised to hear that, because some of it gets very vulnerable and very introspective. But for me, that's old territory. Like I know that world very well. So it still feels safe and it feels genuine. And I think there's my comfort zone exists primarily around feeling like what I'm saying or the picture I'm trying to paint, feeling like a genuine representation of what I'm going through. So that feels comfortable. I'd like to kind of kick that and see where that goes. Maybe I'll do that soon. But I think I should do that. It's a good point. Thanks, Jeff.
Happy to throw it out there. That's awesome. Go for it. Okay, so how about heroes? Do you have any musical heroes, and why are they your heroes?
For sure. Yeah, I have some big heroes, and they're mostly because, well, I mean, the reasons are different for my main two heroes. Like someone like Paul Simon, who is constantly reinventing the wheel, as it were, and I admire that greatly, because within that he does things that always feel fresh. At the same time, saying ideas that always feel fresh and profound, and he's been doing that for a long time, and that blows my mind. And then I think my other main hero, Guy Garvey of Elbow, is just a completely disarmingly good lyricist. He can make the most mundane, normal observations about everyday life feel so loving and gentle and comfortable, and that's a force of nature. It blows my mind.
Yeah, our heroes, there are many people out there who exemplify these sort of amazing facets. For sure. And I mean, those are just the ones that I've really been getting into recently. But, you know, Leonard Cohen's always in the wings. Like, he influenced both of those men, I think, a fair amount. So, yeah. So that it sounds like that genuine connection with the audience through the art, you know, through the music, is what you, it's what you're shooting for here. So, is that true?
I think so. I don't know if it's necessarily. It's the way that I have to look at myself in the mirror, and so I want to be true to myself. I want to be true to what I'm experiencing and what the things that I'm saying, and so yeah, I guess that is what I'm shooting for. But it's less about making that connection and more about just liking myself and being able to read the things I've written or listen to an album and be like, that sounds about right, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So back to the heroes, and you sort of answered this, but maybe you can give me a little bit more. What characteristics of those guys do you wish you had, or are you cultivating in yourself?
Do I wish I had? I don't know. I don't know if I can really look at it that way, because I don't want to be them. I would like to be as good at what it is I do as they are at what they do. And I think I have a long way to go, but I think that's really what I find admirable about them, is that you really get a sense of who they are and how they look at the world and the things that interest them through the music that they write. And as a listener, what more could you really want? You want to find someone else's experience that you can relate to, and I think helps make sense of one's own. So, yeah.
Cool. Do you ever have doubts about what you're doing, your sort of value as a person, or the project, or your talent?
Oh yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
Friends, family. Yeah, for sure I do. And I think it's part of the process. I think that's actually built in. And a lot of the times I think one is right to doubt it, but also there's a lot that can be learned from that, and sometimes it takes a friend buying you a beer and slapping you upside the face for you to kind of remember, wait, no, this is cool, I like this. And I think there's a very gentle dance between learning to appreciate yourself and have confidence in yourself and what you do, but also very consciously not losing sight of that self-loathing that got you into it in the first place. So, and I think that happens. It's all for me. It's all circular. It always comes back around. And within that circle, there's all these little circles that continue to do that. And so I think over time one just learns to ride those waves and find what needs to be learned out of that, and then make use of it or don't.
Sure. Yeah. So, as an artist, we all know that every artist, whether it's a musician or whatever, it's a struggle. It is an emotional struggle like that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally a financial struggle, at least until you get, to a certain level. It's a physical struggle. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff, really.
Yeah.
Why do this?
I think my parents would be very happy to hear you ask that question. I think in the past I've answered that kind of with a flippant, well, I don't think I have a choice. Like, I think this is the only thing that really interests me. I think that's what I'm here to do. I don't know about that anymore. I think at a certain level, the people that choose to do this have very strong bullshit detectors and really like certain things in music and really don't enjoy other things. And I think there's a part of us perhaps that feels a little compelled to live in that world, because it's kind of essential to who we are. At least it is to me. And it's also the frame through which that I view a lot of things. In a weird way, the world doesn't make very much sense to me without musical input and something that can capture so clearly and cleanly the pain and the joy that we all endure, and I think that's no slight on other art forms, because they're amazing, but this is the one that has just kind of, I don't know, the direct line to my emotional well-being in my heart. It feels like it just cuts to the chase a lot more effectively.
Oh yeah, man.
Beyond that, maybe I still don't have a choice. I don't know. But at the same time, it doesn't need to do any of that. Like, you can just put something on and shake your butt while you're washing the dishes or something, and that's great. It's hard to do that with a painting. It's hard to wash dishes to a painting.
Music does something.
Yeah.
It gets us somehow. Mm-hmm. When it really gets us, it really gets us.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had moments where it is, for me anyway, transcendent. Mm-hmm. Listening or performing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Or writing.
Sometimes I like to feel like, because I inhabit this world with so much of my day and my energy, that maybe songs don't quite have the same effect. And then I just find that's a crock, because I'll listen to a record, like there's one in particular that I have right now that is very much a time in my life, and I put it back on and I feel everything that I was going through, just as if it happened yesterday. And how does that happen? there's some other force at work here that connects those dots through time and space. And how lucky are we that we get to actually experience that?
Yeah, totally cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. So, as a creative person, how do you, and in terms of your music, your songwriting, your career,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, how do you define success?
I'm still working on that. I think, well, actually, I don't think that's true. I think our culture very naively defines success as financial success, which, I mean, you can get rich. That's a thing that can happen. I don't think it's easy, but it's a thing that you can do. But then what? Then you have money. Okay, cool. You have money. Go buy things. For me, success is much more closely aligned with communicating and expressing the things that I'm feeling and wanting to share. And it's real. The success is found in how effectively that job is done. If I write a song and people smile at the end, or are smiling during the song, or are smiling and crying during the song, find better success than that. I mean, that's not why I set out to do it, but that means it's connecting. That means someone is getting something out of it that is, you know, equal to that which I put in. You know, that's success for me. And then maybe going out and buying something would be nice, like having a beer after a show. That sounds pretty good. That sounds like a good night.
Fair enough,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Play a show, make people feel things, and then have a beer.
Score.
Right. I dare you to have a better evening than that.
Perfect, so true. Okay, one last question for you here. So, the NFA philosophy, the not fucking around philosophy, what would you tell other songwriters, other musicians out there, if you could give them the main line into Nick's, you know, here's what I'm doing to get to where I've gotten? Because there's plenty of people who are still playing guitar in their bedroom, right? Never played a show, never recorded an album, etc. You've done all this stuff and done it well.
And I still play guitar in my bedroom. I mean,
it's a good place to play it. Right? Absolutely. So what would you tell people about NFA? How do you get out there and do your thing?
Man, I don't know if I have anything, or I don't look at myself as being in any position where I can prescribe advice to anyone in that regard. I think one needs to find one's voice in this world of songwriting. For me, that took a long time to really kind of hone in on the way in which I wanted to communicate, and also get to the point where I was comfortable enough as a musician where it was no longer prohibiting me from actually getting things across the way I wanted them to come across. And so I think for me it just took playing a lot of gigs and just working it and taking the things that worked and then trying to improve upon them. And it's the old 10,000 hours thing. I don't know where I fall on that scale, but I think the idea behind it is exactly right. You gotta put your time in. You have to. I think all the greats still sit down with a blank sheet of paper and a guitar, and I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do with this today? And gotta keep chipping away.
Fantastic. Right on, man.
That's my non-advice.
Okay. Well, we thank you for it. And,
Yeah.
that was good advice.
Okay.
I think it was great advice. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Nick, for coming out.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
My pleasure.
Okay.